Welcome. I'm Natalie Marsh. Real estate is all about relationships, and I'm here to help you navigate the journey. Whether you're a homeowner, buyer, seller, or simply love the topic of real estate, this podcast is for you. In each episode, I'll sit down with a friend and industry expert to bring you valuable insights on everything about homes. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's talk, learn, and grow together. Today, joining me is Petra Trunkes. She is an amazing interior designer for all brands under Williams-Sonoma that include Pottery Barn, West Elm, Mark and Graham, and Rejuvenation. Petra, thanks for joining. Welcome.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks for having me. Thanks for that wonderful review.
So let's talk about room space and the challenges that people might have with extra doors and windows and fireplaces and entryways and paths. How do we get around all of this stuff and how do you do your job?
Well, it can be challenging at times, certainly. I like to put things in two categories, right? The space itself, and then sort of obstacles along the way, obstacles and pathways. So we start with the basic layout of a room. So what does that mean to someone who's getting in touch with me? I need the measurements of everything. And I know people are not home savvy per se,
So wait a minute, let me get this straight. So it's not just understanding the wall length. You want to understand the windows that fit on the wall and how far away they are from everything else?
Absolutely. And how high up they are, because if you have windows that go almost to the floor, like you do see in more so in some areas than others, we don't want to be blocking that if we can get away with it. And if we do have to put something in front of it, how do we put something in front of it that's going to withstand the sun over time?
Yeah.
Looking very long range on your purchases and your layout as well. So I often sit right in a Zoom meeting with people and they stand there with their measuring tape. And if they're not savvy enough to, sort of spatially aware to get me what I need, those measurements, we go around the room. We start in one corner and I say, how many inches to this spot? How many inches to the fireplace? How many inches to where it bumps out? And when I say obstacles, fireplaces that come out, hearths. Maybe there's a bump out in a wall from somebody who took down a wall, right? And made a
Oh.
big room. Could be a pillar, could be stairs, could be a window. I had someone who had opened up the wall where their stairs are and just had a giant open triangle. Well, we don't want to block the open triangle, but now they lost, 14 feet of wall space that they could have put furniture against.
So let me
So
just ask one question because you brought up a really interesting point. When you're taking your measurements and things like doorways, and in my house, I had it swapped out where there was a French door to a slider door because we had to keep opening doors up. Is that something you're taking into consideration as well?
absolutely, absolutely. That is not only an obstacle, but it is a pathway. It's both. So doors are the trickiest of things for that because you've got to account for the swing. Does it swing in? Does it swing out? An exterior door is a different width than an interior door, which might be a different width than a closet door. Or if they're bifold doors also need a clearance as well. So we have to account for all of that. And I have brought a little example.
Oh, great.
Like me to share. Um,
Absolutely.
it's a small living room. It is the only family living room space in the house, although they are not putting a television in there. And this client came to me saying, I've always been able to do my own spaces, but this one has me stumped. And of course, I spent some time on it with her. So we collaborated a little bit, and it's going to look super easy because I already have the pieces that fit. It wasn't quite as quick as you might think. So I'm going to share my screen. Get there. Can you see that?
Yeah, it looks great. It looks
Uh,
scary, but great.
So what you're seeing here, where there is no dark line here, here, and here, those are open walls. So this family enters through here. It is an offset door, which was helpful in the design and layout here. We've got a door into a study, a doorway to a hallway. We've got a very large bump out of a fireplace, and these are bookcases, so we can't block these built-in bookcases and this big hearth that sticks out. This is backing up to the chairs into the kitchen. This is a dining area, so we want to make sure we can get into that little space. And here we have not a slider, but those
French doors.
beautiful opening French doors that open into the home. So this is what we started with. And she said, I need to get from here to here to here to here to here. And how do I do that? Because I actually want to have some seating. And she thought maybe only she'd be able to put two chairs in there. Of course, her dream, I asked what her dream would be, which was the sectional, and we took a look at that. And I'm going to be able to show you that a little bit and how this is not a large sectional either, by the way, but this is, can't open the doors. And if we turn it, which it would fit, which these are always fun, right? It's fun just watching it move around. That's awfully imposing when you walk in. It's not at all inviting to see the back of the sofa, and it just does not look right with this hallway. So that was a no-go. Secondly, we came in with less of a big bulky sectional, which spatially could work. That rug ends up being too small, so I bring in another rug just to layer it so we can figure out what the size is down the road. We're going to need a custom rug in here. That's not bad. Now we can see out the door. That was a big deal for her to be able to see it through to the door there. Get
So,
her.
Petra, let me stop you for a second. And I don't know if this is something that as you're putting it down, the furniture down in these examples, are you placing it on the rug where you would actually put it?
For the most part, right now, this would be like sort of experimenting to see what will fit and what's going to work best for the family. And ultimately, this sofa will fit. To have it look right, it would want to center more to the fireplace. So you see you're encroaching. But again, it doesn't look welcoming. You're coming in, and the first thing you're seeing is the side of a piece of furniture. We brought in a sofa and a swivel chair, a stationary chair, which of course this all looks very easy, right? But of course I've already gotten the pieces that I know will actually fit in the space. And this was something that ultimately could work for her. Again, we're experimenting with the rug size, what would work here for her. But she was able to get a lot more than she had originally anticipated, with little tables on the side even. Now, this is not choosing any color. This is not choosing style. First and most important thing is, will it fit? So we talk about fit. You can love this big, beautiful, cushy, oversized sectional where you all can jump on it and snuggle. But if it doesn't fit in the room, it doesn't fit in the room. So we have to pivot a little bit. That doesn't mean you can't have a sofa that is based on that. It just means that's not going to fit, which is okay. We can still get the same feel in the room and have the same experience, just scaled down slightly. So we ended up here. She has her pathway. She has her view out the door. She can get over to her dining area easily, access the bookcases, access this door, and still have this wonderful conversation space. We put in a swivel chair, can sit by the fire that way and enjoy the fire, or literally just look out the back because this was a mountain home.
Each of the diagrams that you showed were exactly like you said, it was cut off, creating congestion within the space itself. And this looks very inviting and very welcoming. And you can actually envision yourself sitting in this particular scenario. So it's
Right. We can talk about things like the back of a sofa and the view of it with using a console, or, you know, a room that has this many angles. Maybe we want a round coffee table or some round side tables or something, ovals, or something that will soften all those angles so it doesn't feel so aggressive. Again, I know we've spoken in the past, and I do talk a lot about feel and how the room feels. And another thing that's important that people don't think about is air, airflow in the space. When you have air in the space, it feels larger. You feel like you can take a deep breath. So pushing things off to the walls, even in some smaller spaces, I mean, obviously in some homes they weren't designed that way, but to be able to do that, but when you pull the furniture off the wall and create a cozy, intimate space in the middle, it leaves this air around, and it makes the room actually, the structure feel bigger. So it's a wonderful way, if it can be done, is to get that furniture away from the walls and be able to feel your way around the space a little better
I
airwise.
love that. I love that. That's great. So we talked about the doors, we talked about the windows and the fireplaces, especially with some of these homes that have so many in there. The background that I'm using here is has the couches against the windows. I know that that's a factor you've got to take into consideration. Are windows easier than doors in comparison to like placing furniture, and are there limitations on what you can, or you can do anything you want, but what is the most functional and things that the people should be considering?
I think every room needs a focal point. If you've got too much going on in too many different areas, it just becomes very busy and the mind can't settle in the space. And that is not talking about, having a lot of plants and a lot of color and a lot of texture like I have in my background here, because there's a theme to that and there's a color theme and your brain will identify that naturally. Trying to fit too much into a space or trying to, by saying, well, I need the TV on this wall, but the fireplace is on this wall, and I've got a view of a lake out this wall, or whatever the case may be. It may be your favorite tree or maybe your neighbor's. But if you to say, what am I going to focus on? And the other factor is, what does it look like when I walk in the room? Does it beckon me or is it forbidding? Like we talked about, immediately walking in the home, there's this beautiful view. I can't get to it. What it tells your mind is you are not allowed, right? So we want to make it feel like, oh, we could walk through this. Even if you would walk around it, it's the sense that you are invited in and you're invited to that space. And we're talking a lot about living rooms. So you talk about a bedroom, and do you want to walk in and necessarily, if you can get away with it, do you want to see the foot of the bed? Do you want to see the side of the bed? I think the focal point generally in most people's bedrooms is the headboard. So isn't that lovely to be able to walk in and just see this beautifully made bed with big puffy pillows and everything? It's not always the best. Sometimes walking into the room, there's just such a beautiful view and a window. Of course, you're going to face the bed toward that. But finding these focal points and keying in on something, I think one of the biggest issues that we tackle in a living room is television. Is it going to be mounted over the fireplace? Because then the fireplaces, again, can be, especially with these frame TVs where it shows a piece of art on there or a photo, the fireplace can still remain the focal point. Or do we hide the television somehow in a piece of cabinetry? But even with that, you're still wanting the fireplace be of some import. I worked on a project recently that had a big, beautiful fireplace and a gorgeous, like 9-foot bow window. And they had the TV almost on an opposite side. So to watch the TV in the fireplace, you lost this view. And I asked them if they were comfortable with moving the television. Been there many years and they've had their TV in the same space. They removed the TV. They just sort of pulled it over there overnight and they came back and said, I don't know why we haven't done this in the past. This is incredible. The whole room feels different. And they were so excited. And it cost them nothing to do that, right? They just put it from point A to point B and felt really good about it. So televisions are a big obstacle in living rooms. In a family room, however, that is typically the focal place. It's where you're going to watch movies and series and football games and hunker down and eat popcorn. So, of course, it's really your own home theater. So that's a very different conversation than a living room.
So what I'm getting from you on all of this is that create a welcoming and an inviting environment that's going to have airflow, make you want to be part of it.
Mhm.
And no obstacles, very important, no obstacles. And occasional pet here and there is okay, but those are movable.
Well, it's interesting, Natalie, right before we say goodbye, is that in the end, when we looked at that room with the sofa, 2 chairs, and a coffee table, it didn't ever look like there was an obstacle. And that's what you're trying to achieve, that sense of it's just right. There is no obstacle, right? Because we've minimized them.
That's great. Thank you again, Petra. And for more information on how to reach out to Petra, please check the notes. Or contact information will be there. Thanks again, and look forward to talking to you in our next session.
Thanks, Natalie. Have a great day.